Hello, hello. Welcome to another watch hunting episode on Chrono 24. I'm Thomas in New York, and we are joined today by Oisin from the Timeless Watch channel, a fantastic source for long-form watch coverage and a little bit of wine and whiskey as well. Oisin, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Thomas. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Where are you calling from today?
I'm in the beautiful city of Venice, Italy. And you are in New York, Thomas, correct? What part of New York are you in? Are you in the city, in Manhattan?
Yep, so we are off of Union Square in the Chrono 24 office. So if you hear any sirens go by, there is always an emergency in the city, as you know.
Certainly, yeah. Yeah, I still have a lot of connections still, and a business even in New York, and a lot of friends. And I miss it. I do miss it. I'll get back as soon as humanly possible. But for now, I have no complaints here in Venice.
Well, speaking of a little wrist motion, let's see what watch you have on today.
Oh, I have the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak chronograph, the 26331 ST. So it's the newer one with the two larger subdials and the smaller second subdial. Very, very nice piece. Very happy with it. What are you wearing?
Just the daily driver, the old Benris Type 1 reissue from
nice.
2020. Yeah, all around great watch, super visible. Can't complain. Thanks for coming on today. I'm excited for our hunts. We're doing something a little bit different than we talked about before. So today, if you're cool with it, Oisin, we want to throw a few scenarios at you and get your recommendations on those. How does that sound?
That sounds great. I'm pulling up my sleeves right as we speak.
Get down and dirty. Let's do it. All right, so Oisin, I'm going to throw a few scenarios at you today. I want you to make some recommendations based on that. For each hunt, for each of our 3 hunts today, we're going to do 2 watches in 4 minutes. First step, weddings, a very popular topic. I want you to think about what would be involved in that sort of thing, temperature, formality, all that sort of stuff. And you, sir, your time starts now.
So we want 2 watches for a wedding. Well, I think I would start with a Datejust. Now I will go for 41 because that's what I would get. And something kind of sparkly. I think at a wedding you can get away with a watch that has perhaps, the uber dressy look to it. So preferably something with Jubilee, something that will sparkle kind of from just behind the cuff in all the photos and so on. And every time you move your hand around, it kind of shimmers and so on. Something kind of like that. I also think you can get away with something white. Like this is nice here with the silver dial. There's also white dial. That could be very complimentary for I'm thinking photos. I'm thinking, with weddings, I'm thinking photos. Because it's all about the photos later. Because it's just one day and then all you've got is the photos then later. So I'm thinking something along the lines of, even this with the diamonds. You may not be a diamond watch wearer normally, but I think for a wedding you can do something like that because it's all about that beautiful sparkle. Let me see if I can find a white face one.
And you got just over 2 minutes total.
Okay. Let's go with this. This is beautiful. There you go. That way you don't have to commit to the diamonds. It's a little cheaper and you can wear it then at other occasions later, but it's got the fluted bezel, it's got a bright dial, which I think is going to be beautiful. Let's do that.
Yep, a little sparkle even without the diamonds.
Yes, exactly. So I'm adding this to my notepad, is that correct?
Let's do it, yep. And you got just under 2 minutes for watch number 2. What are you thinking?
I'm going to stay with Datejust, and if you want to get a little crazier, I'm going to keep it tight here. I'm not going to go too broad. I think a Datejust is the way. And maybe something even a little bit more ostentatious, more eye-grabbing. How about this first one here?
We talking two-tone, or what are you thinking?
Two-tone, I'm thinking. Yeah, what do you think?
Oh, I love a two-tone.
Yeah. Fluted again. The chocolate might be a bit of a conversation starter, you know, after all the process is complete, and then it's, you know, drinks and friends and fun. I think a watch like this, people might say, my God, what was that watch we were wearing at your wedding? You know, that's the kind of reaction we all dream of when, you know, us watch fans, we all would love people to notice our watch. So let's go ahead and choose this one. I think that people are going to see that from across a room.
You always want to steal a little bit of thunder away from the bride. That's my strategy for weddings.
Are you married to yourself?
I am not. No, not even close.
No. Not even close. Me neither, actually. But somewhere in the back of my head, I imagine myself wearing a fancy, sparkly watch like one of these at my wedding, if that were to ever happen. So that's it. I've done it within 4 minutes, I hope, yeah?
Yes, with seconds to spare, might I add. Let's take you to hunt number 2, shall we? Let's talk about fancy dinners. You have many throughout your life, whether it's your anniversary after your wedding or whether it's more of a business occasion. In 4 minutes, Oisin, I want you to find 2 watches that you think would be great for said fancy dinner. And your time starts now.
Okay, so let's do 2 different things. Let's go for something that could work for a conversation. If you're at a fancy dinner with lots of people, what are you got to do other than eat? You've got to make conversation. So let's look at an Omega Speedmaster, the thinking man's watch, and something that might be a nice conversation starter, or, you know, when people notice the watch, you can actually hold the conversation around the watch for a little bit. Although I am a big fan of the reduced, I do have large wrists, so that's not going to work.
Yeah, that's always a fork in the road, reduced or professional. We going professional today?
It is. I'm a professional guy, yes, because look at these wrists, you know. This watch suits me because it's so large, but if you saw reduced on me, I don't think it would work. I think something, perhaps the 145022, I have one of these myself. Something vintage, something classy, not too ostentatious, but a little, you know, darker, more technical looking, and something that, you know, carries a lot of quiet class to it, and has these older bracelets are very nice. There are different variations. This
is a really good watch that hasn't been super priced out by the market yet.
Indeed, yeah. People are, you know, they're not sensitive to all the differences. Does this one have the long S and long R? I don't think so. Okay, well, that's why it's a little bit cheaper, more affordable, but it essentially looks the same. Lovely Hesalite. Yeah, let's do that one. And that way, if there's any conversation to be had, you can talk about the moon landing, you can talk about everything that the watch represents, you can talk about the fact that patina is a thing. You know, I love to make people aware of things like that. I think people who don't know much about watches might say, oh, your watch is dirty.
Yep.
Whereas, oh, that's not dirt, that's patina. And we love that. So this is 1993, 145022. Let's go for that. Beautiful.
All right, 90 seconds
I think
left.
that's a really good deal. I might go buy that myself.
Yeah.
Now that I spotted that. And then let's go for something then, power. Let's say we're at a fancy dinner because we're making an impression on someone, or we're bringing a client out to a big swanky restaurant.
Closing a deal.
Closing a deal. Let's go for the classic bluesy in all gold. A watch I actually just picked up recently.
And you've got just about a minute.
Okay. Well, I see it already. This one's got box and papers and everything, unpolished, which you want, because it's such a shiny watch. If it's recently polished, it's going to be too much. Gold still sparkles. That's a power watch that's telling people you're the man. So we are in there.
Yeah, with about a pound of gold on your wrist, it's hard not to make a statement.
Indeed.
So Oisin, we have done weddings, we have done fancy dinners. Let's end it on a little bit more of a casual note. We're talking everyday burger, beer kind of stuff. I want to see where your head's at. Your 4 minutes starts now.
You know, I was just shooting a watch the other day. I was shooting 2 watches for the channel. One was a Oyster Perpetual with the silver dial, and I was at the Florian, the oldest cafe in the world, in the Piazza, and it filmed so well. But I also was filming a Tudor Black Bay Heritage with the black dial, and it just didn't suit any of the beautiful, elegant Venice. And I was looking around for a cool place to shoot it, and I wound up in the Hard Rock Cafe with a burger and a beer. So it was exactly that. It worked perfectly for the Tudor. I think the Tudor is the rugged man's watch. I'm going straight for Black Bay. And some people like the 58. It's an excellent watch. I had one for a short while, but I had to sell it on because, again, my usual issue, it was just too small on me. So I love the regular ones here. This guy right here. Let me see which one. Yeah, let's do this guy here. That's a great price as well. Let me see if it has everything pre-owned. Very good. Original box, original papers, beautiful. This is great for jeans, t-shirt, beer, play a bit of pool, something like that. And it's a strong watch. It's got a lot of oomph, and it's gonna shine under those neon signs in the pub or in the bar or whatever over by the jukebox. So let's do that one.
And you want to go black dial? You do have a lot of color options here with the Black Bay.
That's right, but I like, my favorite is the black. That's the one I actually own myself. I really dig it. I know you've also got, you've got red bezel. You've got the Harrods green bezel. Lots of different options there. I'm just going for, the vanilla, the original and the best. Straightforward one, and that other one I just found was a great price, so it's worth it. And if a watch like this is a little dinged up or used or scratched, it gives it character. With many watches you want it to be as pristine condition as possible, but with a watch like this, even this one here on the leather strap, if that had a few scratches on it, it would almost give it more character. So that's definitely a thing for a burger beer, relaxed. Next, I would go for a Seiko. Let's do the King Turtle.
Ooh.
Yeah. There's a few different variations here. You have the Save the Ocean. You have the green dial one. Can we find the green? That's getting harder and harder to find since I made a big video about it. There she is.
Mm-hmm. 1 minute left.
Okay, perfect. I've already made up my mind. This is a fantastic watch. It's got that. It's a waffle dial, but I call it a hand grenade dial because it looks like an old hand grenade. With that.
And it definitely fits with the vibe of this watch. This thing is...
That's a tough watch. It's perfect for going out with the boys. And it's got a lot of meat to it, a lot of power.
Yeah,
very,
you could have a few beers with this one and not be worried about knocking it around.
Well, that's it. Yeah, maybe if it goes to beers and then shots... you don't have to be worried about, where the hell did I leave my watch, or what did I do, or I cracked it off the bar or whatever. Watch like this can definitely take a beating and still look really cool at the end of your wrist. So I am going straight for that one, guys.
And well under $1,000 too.
Yeah. They're my 2 burger beer watches.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. You timed it perfectly, Oisin.
Look at that, you see? That's years of being on stage, guys. That's what that is. That's years of songwriting going, I got to keep it under 4 minutes or people are going to get bored.
So we got 6 watches here. We covered a lot of bases. One thing I want to ask you about, well, let's start with the wedding. So obviously, I assume you didn't want to go leather strap here. Is that right?
Maybe that would have been a good other option to do I had thought of perhaps an IWC Portuguese chronograph, which I think is one of the more interesting dress watches out there, and it's got a lot of class. I was just thinking, let's do it. Perhaps for the second wedding. Maybe if things don't go so well and you wind up getting married again, you know, a few years later, you tone down your attitude slightly and you go, okay, let's not do a date just this time. Let's be a bit more modest now. I'm learning as I go, and I'm going to wear a quieter watch like the Portuguese or something like that, something a bit more adult. These have a lot of oomph. They have a lot of sparkle. A lot of watches, really, the photo doesn't do anything. Even if it's a nice photo with a beautiful background, you need to see the watch in motion, moving, and that applies to these watches, especially with the fluted bezel. As the watch turns on your wrist with natural movement, as you're talking like I am now, moving my hand, or you know, if you're at the dinner table or picking up a drink or something, or dancing with your new bride, it's about the glimmer and how the light catches the watch and dances with the watch. So the fluted and the Jubilee is what I went for there. But again, I held back from the diamonds because you want to perhaps wear the watch then the following day and so on. And every time you go out with your wife, with your new bride. So you don't want, maybe the diamonds were a little too loud. So I'm happy I went for the sticks on both.
Yeah, a nice happy medium there. Let's move on to the fancy dinner category. Now, one thing that I pinned that I do want to talk to you about is, I think a lot of people, the expected thing would be some Calatrava-esque, something slim, precious metal that slides underneath the cuff. We do have a precious metal here, but we're doing big boy sport watches. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, as I said, I think, first of all, I think these are two opposites, these watches, even though they're both in full metal, one precious, of course. One is, you know, the biggest man in the room kind of thing. The annoying guy, perhaps, at the big swanky restaurant. The guy ordering more wine, you know. Garçon.
Yep,
you know,
little snap at the waiter.
That kind of character, you know. And then the other is the thinking man who's at the end of the table and keeps to himself. And if you manage to start up a conversation with him, it'll be the best one you have in the evening. That's what the Omega Speedmaster guy is. This one has I assume the 861 movement. Yeah, it's the 145022, so it'll have that. And what a great history in this. It's so rich. It's such a great watch to talk about, and it can, rather than match a suit, it can sit by itself. If you have a nice shirt on at the nice restaurant, the watch kind of sits in an individual space on your wrist. It doesn't have to match everything else that's around it. It kind of has its own identity. So that's what we love about a Speedmaster.
And I like that you brought up patina earlier, because if you are at a fancy dinner and someone says, oh, your watch looked a little dirty, well, it's like, you know, like a fine wine, some things get better with age, and especially the 145 has tritium hour markers, am I right?
It is, yes. You see the T next to the Swiss made there, T on either side, they're tritium. So those indices and hands will light up for about 3 seconds. Because, you know, the half-life of tritium is, 16 years or 8 years or something. 16, I think. 12, sorry. And yeah, so they're getting dull, but that, of course, is the character we want. It's actually a great condition one, considering, because there are no gaps. You see there's no breaks in. Usually this crumbles away, this kind of stuff here. This one is usually intact, but these long ones here on the minutes hand there, they tend to crumble and fall into pieces. But yeah, that's a nice condition one, and it's got that dull patina going on there. It's nice.
So one thing I liked about these two as well is that they would both work on straps if you do want to be a little bit more key, a little bit more under the radar at the dinner table.
Well, yeah, the Speedmaster is a strap queen. She's great for that. in some ways better on a vintage leather strap. I'm not sure I'd put would you put the all gold watch on a strap? Maybe that's a way of toning it down slightly.
I think for, a day date, I think it would be appropriate, but for this, you're really going for more of a visual effect, a king of the seas, a titan of industry, a magnate, let's say. So I think for this, yeah, you're right. And do you have one of these? Am I correct in that?
Let me stick it on right now. Yeah, it's a kind of a power watch. It only works in certain occasions, of course, but it is a big statement.
It's got to be a bit of a confidence boost putting that on, right? Oh yeah.
Yeah. I deliberately went for the 16618 rather than the 116618 because the blue has a better luster to it. It's got a deeper shade of blue, and I much prefer even a bluesy, a two-tone from the previous generation. I just love that blue. I'm not as much of a fan of the newer ones, and it's a very convenient thing because they're a little cheaper, they're a little bit more available. This one's in excellent condition and it's unpolished, one owner, full set, and that's why it's $47,500. But you can get these more down toward the 30,000 range if you're willing to put up with perhaps no box or something like that. Maybe a couple of pieces missing, but the watch is intact. But I think out of all the bluesy configurations, the older one, the 16618s, are the nicer one because of that shade of blue. It's just wonderful. Yeah.
Now let's talk about our last category a little bit. We got burgers, beers, everyday stuff. I think this is going to apply to a lot of people because weddings are hopefully once in a lifetime. Fancy dinners are probably maybe a once a month kind of thing, and then everything in between. You got these two right here.
Yeah, I think this is probably an everyday watch for most guys. This is probably the best bang per buck for any watch out there right now. Tudor are still in a price range that it is, it's reachable for many people, and it's still got amazing, heritage behind it. Of course, it's called the heritage, no pun intended, but that's what it is. It's got history. It's a strong brand, but I think it is at that price point. I think it's an everyday watch. It's an every situation watch. Just a magnificent power piece, strong, durable, and you're not walking around with a $15,000, $20,000 watch on you. So it's a nice balance. The Seiko, this is just one of the great watches. Seiko they're just amazing for the price. Well under $1,000, and this watch in the flesh is wonderful. If you want to see more shots of this in various environments, I made a big video on this, and I believe I called that video World's Best Watch with a question mark, because apart from situations like when you have a nice suit on or something that wouldn't suit this watch, everything else, it can go into any other situation. It'll work anywhere. And because the king configuration now with the sapphire crystal and the ceramic bezel that they put on these, making them a king turtle rather than a turtle, just upgraded this watch to something that looks a lot more expensive than it is and feels more expensive than it is. I also love the cushion case here and that silicone strap. It's one of the most comfortable watches I have. So I think you cannot go wrong.
Yeah, the value proposition here as well. Even those little upgrades with the sapphire crystal and the ceramic bezel, they only make the watch tougher as well, as in addition to kind of adding, making it look more expensive too. That is a super, super good deal.
Yeah, some people criticize these watches because they you have to look for a good one. You have to shop around, which it's great with your tool here, just hovering over there, able to scan the watch up close, because some of these can tend to be, for example, they're that widescreen candy bar, as they call it, Cyclops, can tend to be slightly off, higher on one side and lower on the other, a little bit skewed. And sometimes these aren't lined up, like the 12 and the Rehot and so on. They're not perfectly aligned. So you have to go shopping around for a good one that just happened to come out all lined up. It's just one of those things about Seiko. I guess they're in an awful hurry to put them together, but they're still great. And it kind of, out of the box, it means the watch feels already kind of used and ready to go. I wasn't happy until I got this watch filled with sand and seawater and, on the beach and scratches. I wasn't satisfied until I got it out there and got it a little bit beat up. And now it looks fantastic, my one.
Yeah, they really beg to be used, which is exactly what you want for a tool watch.
Yeah, you ain't babying this watch. And same with the Tudor. They're not watches to be babied at all.
Yeah, they can take a beating for sure. Take a few beers, take the aftermath of a few beers. You can even drop it in your beer if you want to.
Yeah, you could definitely drop this watch in. In fact, if it smelled a little bit of beer, wow, that's a great idea. I might do that with my Tudor.
Yeah?
Just stick it in some beer or whiskey and give it that smell. I've heard of some guys who like to put a little cologne on their watch sometimes, and they give themselves a little spray, put a little cologne on the strap of their watch. It's not something I've ever done, but some guys like to do that. Maybe a little bit of whiskey or beer stink off my Tudor might even add more character.
I think a barrel-aged Tudor could be a good business idea.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, let's call it there. We've got 6 really good watches, a whole lot of variety there, some powerful stuff, some a little bit more under the radar, some vintage, some modern, tough and a little bit more elegant. Job well done, Oisin. Let's talk a little bit about what we got coming up next. We want to keep you around for another video. We're doing similar situational kind of stuff, but we reached out to our viewers for some suggestions. So we got ideas, real ideas coming from real people. I want to see where you take it. How does that sound?
Yeah, it would be great to actually put this, rather than just pontificating about the imaginary wedding or the imaginary fancy dinner, to actually take from actual viewers. Both your viewers and mine have written in with lots of suggestions, and we have a lot of cool ones that we can actually give real world advice to people who heading into those situations who need a watch perfect for the day.
Well, there we go. With that, stay tuned for our next episode with Oisin, where we go through your suggestions from the audience. I'm Thomas Corner24. We'll have more videos coming out all the time. Check out the Timeless Watch channel while you're here. Stay tuned and enjoy your watches.